could there have been only one? And he's back in business.
Is the worst idea in the history of bad ideas.
Part 2 is the final chapter in the violent history.
This time, it's personal.
I've been down here too long. It's time for me to ascend.
From the sewers of Gotham, a new villain emerges.
You didn't invite me, so I crashed.
From the rooftops of Gotham, the perfect enemy comes to life.
I am Catwoman. Hear me roar. Yeah.
And the only one who can save this city is a creature of the night.
Hey, stud. I thought we had something together.
We do. While she craves a romance she can sink her claws into,
You're catnip to a girl like me.
he plots a foul reign of destruction.
My dear penguins, thanks to Batman, the time has come to punish all of Gotham!
You missed. Above Gotham looms its greatest hero.
If you like big city politics, misogyny, penguins that live in the sewer, cats, Shreck, not the donkey kind, umbrella gadgets, fake news, power plants, evil clown gangs, ice princesses that fall to their death, and Christmas tree lightings, you are going to love the movie we're talking about this week. It's Batman Returns, from the year of my birth and Andrew's birth, I think. And I won't say what year that is, but we're watching another Batman movie as we kick off our Christmas sequel season of Revenge of the Sequel. Oh, ho, 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 to you. And we've got 3 hoes joining us this week. our guests, or actually, let's introduce our hosts. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm Emmanuel. I'm one of the hoes.
I am Andrew. Hey, it's John. With an H. It's John with an H. That's important because of what's about to happen right now, next.
And the H also stands for ho.
Oh, yeah.
And the final ho of our ho 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 is our guest, the host of Dirt Sheet Radio. It's John.
Hello everyone. Hello, my fellow hoes.
Hey.
We're a group of hoes, whatever that is. John, it's our Christmas season. We're kicking it off with this Batman movie. Are you in the Christmas spirit?
Oh, I'm all in the Christmas spirit. I've spent all my money. My children are driving me crazy. I'm down. I'm ready.
And I believe it's Texas, and it has dipped to 70 degrees, so it's winter, and feels like sweater weather to me, baby. This is our this is our Christmas I guess group or special season of sequel movies, and I'm surprised that there are so many because there's quite a bit of sequels that take place or revolve around Christmas. Do y'all, are movies a big part of your Christmas I guess tradition, Andrew or John with an H?
Yeah, I think so. I think movies, especially us who have talked 100 plus episodes of movies in general, I think they're important to us, and so yeah, I always use them throughout the year. It's not just during Christmas, so Christmas isn't special. It's not like I only watch movies during Christmas, but yeah, so it's pretty cool. I mean, you watch like stuff like Home Alone and you watch, The Grinch and shit, A Christmas Story, whatever.
The Grinch and shit.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah. And so this is a really, really good one, the one that we're about to cover.
John with an H.
I'm sorry.
Do you? I watch a movie in the theaters normally every Christmas night. Do you do that?
Are you well, it's probably not going to happen this Christmas since I'm afraid of like people in general. But yeah, I would say like I would echo what Drew said. I mean, there's kind of movies that get me in the spirit, and there's like traditional movies that I watch. Like I know everyone the debate's still out, but Die Hard to me is like a Christmas tradition to watch. And then movies like, I guess, The Grinch, Christmas Vacation, kind of some of the movies that we're going to be doing this season. Batman Returns, I will say that is it's not a movie that I watch and associate with Christmas, but it does have a Christmas theme. So it's kind of it's appropriate that we're talking about it right now.
John, not with an H, what's your favorite Christmas movie?
That's a good question. I've never actually thought about it. It was probably going to be one of those old puppet Christmas films because I used to watch shows like every year on the ABC Family or whatever it's called now. But yeah, I'd really have to think about that.
Yeah, those are.
I couldn't think of it now though. If that's what you're waiting for,
I can't name any of the other ones. No, I would go to like I said before, I would go to the movies every Christmas night, but I don't think all of them were Christmas themed. I watched Force Awakens one Christmas, and I don't think that has a Christmas theme, other than I guess the birth of a Jesus-like character.
That wasn't in that movie. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Batman Returns. This is a really fun movie, and maybe one of the only superhero-themed Christmas movies that we'll talk about. Oh, wait, there's another. Iron Man 2, I think. But, John, now with an H, how old were you when you watched Batman Returns? And what'd you think?
Oh, I had to be like too early to actually remember. Because it's one of those movies where I don't remember the first time I watched it, but I do remember watching it multiple times. So it's like one of those movies I spammed as a kid.
I can't remember either, but I think John with an H, you did tell me that this may be the first movie you've ever seen.
This would have to be confirmed by I have to talk to my mom about this, and I'm sure she remembers just as much as I do.
Call her right now. Call your mom right now.
But I do have a memory. The earliest memory that I have of a movie theater is watching this in theaters with my mom, Batman Returns. So I would have been like maybe 3 years old at the time. But it would have, it kind of, again, I'm going to go ahead and echo what John said, which is like, it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly when I saw this flick. I saw this flick like so young. Like I said, the images of seeing it coming out of a theater and then going to McDonald's and getting a Batman Returns, toy at McDonald's. It was my, a definitive movie for me as it's kind of like this one and the first Burton film kind of cemented my love of Batman character along with the animated series and, stuff like that. So much so that growing up and seeing different versions of the character, I would always kind of compare it being like, why isn't it like this? Even when it in the early Nolan days, in the Batman Begins and stuff, I was kind of always weirded out that it wasn't going the Burton route and stuff. So, this movie I saw when I was a wee little kid. Or a weekend. I bet you.
It's perfect. I know that you said earlier, or you texted me that this was dark, or some people consider it dark, but I definitely thought it was the perfect one for kids to watch, more than Dark Knight Rises or The Dark Knight.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you put it that way, it's definitely like, it definitely lends itself more. I think nowadays you can kind of show it to, maybe in kids now like are a little bit more desensitized, but I would imagine back in the day it's kind of a weird little movie to have since it's so Burton-esque. Like it's so Tim Burton-y. It's more Tim Burton-y than it is Batman. And, especially when you have like a freakish penguin character and, a very hyper-sexualized Catwoman. And then even then there's the way like Andrew was saying, like the Danny Elfman score and the way the Gotham City is, it sounds like you can kind of just, you can picture the Nightmare Before Christmas like happening in the background.
Andrew, what did you think of Batman Returns?
I think when I was younger, I was terrified because if John was 3, then I was just a wee little nut. I'm just kidding. Gross. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I was super young, and since obviously it premiered the year I was born, probably. I probably saw it super early because John was probably a fan of it, and so he's gonna run it again. Run that bitch to the ground on VHS. And so, it's one of those things where the penguin terrified me. I think that all the black stuff coming out of his mouth and how loud it got, or how loud he got, and he yelled, and I mean, that's to Danny DeVito. Hats off to Danny DeVito. But so it's again, that's the first earliest memories I remember of it. It's just, it terrified me. So I was like, I got to stay away from this movie. But again, we put it on a lot, and to the point where I kind of saw, again, like the way John said, like you can kind of tell, like it's almost like Edward Scissorhands could be happening, and also Nightmare Before Christmas, just that specific Tim Burton feel. And I think it's one of the most Tim Burton-y movies around. It fits him so well, and it's really, really cool to see him kind of drift off from the source material and just kind of play in this movie. And I think that's ultimately why he decided to come back, is how much creative control they were going to give him over the movie. But so again, just all around, I think badass Batman film just overall.
I pulled up the top 10 highest grossing movies of this year. Do y'all want to guess any of them at all? You can't cheat. But just think about the year 1992. What movies do y'all think?
I'm cheating.
Oh, no. I'll read off from top 10. Well, I'll read from number 1. The number 1 highest grossing movie of this year was Disney's Aladdin, brand spanking new. Then it was The Bodyguard with Whitney Houston. It grossed $411 million, The Bodyguard, and I Will Always Love You. Home Alone 2 came out this year. Basic Instinct, Lethal Weapon 3, Batman Returns, A Few Good Men, Sister Act, Bram Stoker's Dracula, Wayne's World, Unforgiven won the Oscar for Best Film and Director, and Al Pacino won Scent of a Woman. He didn't win A Scent of a Woman. He won an Oscar for A Scent of a Woman, Emma Thompson for Howard's End. But that was crazy. All those movies seem like hits, and this movie kind of fit right in there. But let's talk about it a little bit more. John, without an H, what did you think of Batman Returns, rewatching it, I guess, just half an hour ago?
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time I've watched it as an adult, I think. I spammed it so much as a kid, I stood away from it for a decade. But it's really different. I found myself loving Selena Kyle here, except for when she'd like lick on her leather as if she was taking a bath. That was really strange, but to run of the mill for Burton, I guess. But she was probably my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah. I feel like you haven't seen the movie Cats then, if you think that is...
No, I have no plans to.
That movie is that times a million, and it gets to the point where you think it's weird, and then you start to really like it.
Oh, shit. You find out you have a fetish you didn't know about.
I didn't know about that fetish. Andrew, what did you think about this movie?
I think it's really, really awesome that we're watching it at this specific time of the year. For you Patreon users, you're getting it like pretty much, obviously quicker than the regular feed. But the regular feed, you're getting this in December, and we just had an election. and all that good stuff. And so it's really, really crazy on the tones that this movie, aged, I guess, or shows in today's time. But also, I really like on how I can really tell where other Batman directors got a lot of their inspiration from. Where I was telling John, I was like, oh my, holy shit, like the Penguin has an army underground, and that's straight up Chris Nolan, what he does with Bane. And, it's an army of penguins. But equally the same destructive force, because he was going to level, like, how many people did he say he was going to kill with that plan?
Lots. Like, he was just basically going to destroy the city. Like,
yeah, because at one point he's like just the firstborns. It's very philosophical and type of, yeah, exactly. And so and then it gets to the point where he's like, I'm just going to blow up the fucking city. And so yeah, I think it's really, really crazy. You play with that's straight up again The Dark Knight Rises, and you also play with like political tones on stuff that's a little bit too relevant right now, depending on who just won this election.
I will. If they're listening to this in December, we've already forgotten what the last 4 years was like. I hope.
Hopefully.
Yeah, this is so cool recording it right now, though. I like this. But anyway, yeah. So it's really, really cool on how Shreck kind of models after like Trump a little bit.
And so does the Penguin.
Yeah, I guess so. And the Penguin, I mean, is definitely kind of almost like a puppet at some point. But
he's not the puppet. You're the puppet.
But yeah. Again, like we get to play with all this stuff, and I think it was ahead of its time for sure. I think that it's super underrated, and I don't know if it is marketed for kids or not. I really don't know if you should. I mean, I know Emmanuel said that it's the perfect one for kids to watch, but I think it's still kind of scary a little bit. I mean, he straight up eats a cat in the first 2 or 3 minutes of the movie as a baby. Those fucked up weird hands freak me out. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah,
John. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just going to add to Drew's like how it's not. I don't know what is for kids now. Like I really don't. Like I'm no expert in what can be marketed to kids. Out of touch. I mean, I guess we did a whole podcast on Marvel movies, so I guess stuff like that is still pretty good. It's fun for the whole family, I guess, for something like that. Batman Returns. You have Catwoman. Giving Batman like a kiss, like a cat kiss, like licking him, and then you have her just kind of like she is basically like in almost like a S&M attire as a cat suit, if you kind of look at it that way. So this movie is definitely not. I didn't think it was definitely a kids movie, even though, which is weird because I just told you that it might have been my first theatrical experience ever.
Do you lick cats now, John?
It took me a long time to get over that. I had to stop licking cats and bats, apparently.
The Penguin straight up wants to bang everything that moves in this movie.
Yeah, the Penguin is this very creepy, like, very misogynistic, like, person who, like, hits on women just straight up, like, just is super creepy, like, saying he's, like, the hottest young person, like, a role model can have.
It's just like real penguins.
Sure.
I thought it was a fun way to show his lack of affection in his life growing up. I thought that was one of the cool things about this movie is like, even though nowadays it's commonplace to kind of have the villain where you sympathize with him, this was like 1992. Batman the Animated Series wasn't a thing yet. The Heart of Ice hadn't happened. So it's pretty cool to see them doing things like that back then.
Yeah, definitely. And I do love the way the dynamic is, because Tim Burton did say he would not come back to this movie unless there was a profile for all of them. And he really didn't understand, because he's not, obviously, from watching the movie, you can tell that Tim Burton's not a big fan of Batman. He's kind of like, he's taking the world that he created from the first movie, but, he likes the freak aspect, like the way how these characters are not normal. And so he found a way to kind of do like animal motifs, like every Batman, Catwoman, Penguin, they're all animals, And so I love that strangeness of it. Like, that Tim Burton could only do this movie if the Penguin was an actual penguin man, like, and stuff like that. So like and then like all of these people have like these hidden sides, these dual sides to them, this duality that they're all struggling with. And it's a really cool dynamic between those three characters.
Yeah, I love this movie. It's so much fun. Well, you brought up the Penguin, played by Danny DeVito. Let's talk about the cast a little bit. What did y'all think of the Penguin himself? Was it the best you've ever seen Danny DeVito? And by best, I mean hottest. Doesn't sound like it.
Sorry, I thought you were going to choose someone.
Well, no, let's go with John without the H.
Okay.
This is on Zoom, everyone. So when I nod my head towards my computer screen, everyone thinks it's for them. But John, without an H, what did you think about the Penguin?
Oh, I thought the Penguin was hot. What are you talking about? No, in all seriousness, I thought it was great. Like I said, I thought it was fun to see that even though it was kind of like John said, like a caricature, like an actual penguin, we still got to see this other side of the character. And I sympathize with him, but I feel bad for him at the end. Nice. I loved it. It did great.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, I think there is a good amount of like sadness surrounding the character that I think everyone can kind of relate to or at least sympathize with, especially towards the very end. I think one of the strongest parts of this movie is that penguin funeral, like where you see all the penguins come out and drag him into the water, which is, kind of sad when you're watching it, especially his final line too, where he's like, I wanted to kill you, but I just need a drink of ice water. And then he just falls over in a weird, like pathetic fashion, but it's still like, there's something very, very sad about it. And I think Danny DeVito, I want to say that I've never actually recognized, even watching it as an adult now, I've seen it countless times as an adult. And this is just, one of the times I've, one of the most recent rewatches. I could never tell it was Danny DeVito underneath that makeup. I mean, obviously when he talks, you can tell it's Danny DeVito, but I could never tell it was,
He's got a penguin nose. He's got the penguin hair. He's got the penguin bod. He went full
penguin.
Penguin.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're going to talk about the future of Batman probably towards the end of this, but the body transformation to become a penguin is happening now with the newest iteration too, which is interesting. So yeah, he set the tone for that. Andrew, any final thoughts on penguins? The animal. What do you think?
Yeah,
you think they're good?
I think it's crazy on how like Tim Burton-ified they made the character. I thought it was pretty awesome. It's like like Tusk, Kevin Smith's Tusk, but with the penguin. Yeah, I thought it was a really cool take on the character, and I mean, and a lot of it is Tim Burton's just idea of where to go with the story. Where at first Batman, he sees him on the news and he sees that, he lost his parents and he can relate to it. And so at first he's genuinely sad and he tells Alfred, I hope he finds his parents. And then it goes from like the very first time you see Batman, the signal shines into his house and they kind of point out on how he's really like a shell of a man. Like he's just waiting to be Batman, literally just sitting in the chair, like waiting for something to fucking happen. And so I think it's crazy because
what a loser.
Well, and in that
it's a weirdo, yeah.
In that sense, it's really crazy because like he at first sympathizes with him and is like, man, I want him to find his parents. Like genuinely, I wish him well. And then he's like, wait a minute, there has to be something wrong with this guy. And he kind of like digs deep into like his past because he wants something wrong to happen so that he can jump up and fucking fight this freak, And so it's fucking crazy and how basically into it and how little Bruce Wayne likes being just Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, this I think these Burton movies really show that like Bruce Wayne does, like Batman might be the real like mask, or like Batman might be the real persona and Bruce Wayne is the actual mask or something. Because I think at one point in this movie, Bruce Wayne says like, I mistook me for someone else when he's introduced to Selena Kyle. Yeah, I think that's pretty funny because like I think that scene is so badass where what Drew brought up, where he where the bat signal shines in Michael Keaton's face, and then he stands up because he's like called to action, but at the same time it's a very ridiculous scene because he's just sitting there waiting for something to happen, like he's not doing anything, and and then like he's like, oh, it's time to clock in, and then he basically goes, drives off.
Well, this is Michael Keaton's return to the role of Batman. He got paid a ton of money to be in this sequel. John, without an H, what did you think of Michael Keaton? Is he one of your top Batmen?
He's not. but I loved him in this movie. I mean, I thought he was fine. I've before going into this movie, I kind of mentally prepared myself to not get so attached to a certain version of Batman so that I can freely enjoy this Tim Burton Batman who says out loud that he's worried and stuff like that. So, but within this world, I thought it worked perfectly fine.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely something really melodramatic about him in this world. Definitely. Well, let's talk about Michelle Pfeiffer. Pfeiffer. I think Annette Bening, Meryl Streep. There were quite a few people who were supposed to be Catwoman, but she won out. She got the role, and I'm sure it was formative for a lot of people around this time to see her play an iconic hero villain in the Batman universe. But because Eartha Kitt, I think, was Catwoman too, right?
Eartha Kitt, Julie Newmar, like they were from the original. Yeah.
What did y'all, or I guess I'll ask you, John, with an H, what did you think of Catwoman? Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman.
So Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman to me is iconic. Like, now seeing it from a very young age and, and watching it even now, it's almost like you don't get the sense that no one's topped that. I mean, everyone else, as you get older, you kind of see that there's different versions of the character and there's different takes on it too. But for me, Michelle Pfeiffer, just watching it, even though it is the way the world, the Tim Burton-esque world of this is little, kind of dated by today's standards. She's awesome. Like the way she has that, she has that flair, that very confident flair of like, of being like a very, formidable villain, basically, while at the same time being like, an ally of desire, basically, that Batman kind of, tangles with. Just that way, that suit too, how iconic that suit is, where it's not, because recent ones where it's just like, like a mask, like a domino mask with cat ears on it. And, I think in the comics, there's a cape, she has a purple suit. I've always thought that the Batman Returns suit is the best looking Catwoman suit, and Michelle Pfeiffer knocked it out of the park. Like she's, there's a sexiness to her that, is kind of very dangerous, and she's like, obviously using that to her advantage. She's playing Batman most of the time. She will like kind of use her own gender as like a weapon, basically against her foes, and yeah, she's like she's probably the most complex character in the flick. Alongside with the Penguin, which kind of begs, the question. It's not a question, but it kind of, you kind of brings up the topic that Tim Burton really is more interested in the villains than he is in Batman. But yeah, she was awesome. I think like after that, I knew Michelle Pfeiffer. Every time I saw a Michelle Pfeiffer movie, it was always like, oh, it's Catwoman. And then obviously you end up finding out that she was great. She was in Scarface and all that other stuff. But, to me, Michelle Pfeiffer was the Catwoman.
Wow. Andrew? I mean, we don't all have to talk about Catwoman. I just like Catwoman.
Yeah, no, but I mean, yeah, it's really cool on how much there is to say on some of these characters when, like, you can watch something like Spider-Man 3 where it's like, what do you have to say about Green Goblin 2? And so yeah, it's cool to get these super crazy big name actors playing these specific characters. Where I'm telling John, where I'm like, holy shit, people forget that Christopher Walken was in a fucking comic book movie before it was cool. Things like that. So to see Michelle Pfeiffer play Catwoman, no wonder Halle Berry failed the next time.
Jesus Louise,
I'm just kidding, but
And Anne Hathaway. No, I'm just playing.
Anne Hathaway was good in her own way, but I mean, like, Anne Hathaway thought that she was auditioning for Harley Quinn because, she thought they wouldn't touch the untouchable, basically, which was Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman. And it's so badass every time she pops up on the screen because, like, no matter how Tim Burton-ified it is, you still get these really, really cool like comic book like moments when like, Catwoman it's Catwoman versus Batman, or when Batman and Penguin are kind of hashing it out, and Batman's onto Penguin and Penguin knows that he's onto him, and he's like, you want to fight? Like, let's fucking throw down. And then Catwoman blows up a fucking huge ass building, and you're like, holy shit, this is like comic book territory now. Like, we're into like the all three characters interacting, and it's kind of ridiculous because Catwoman goes crawling up a wall and shit, and so it sounds like I'm describing a comic book. And so it's just interesting to see this specific take on it that's influenced, I think, so much of it, because so much, a lot of people like the brooding Batman, and so this is brooding, but in Tim Burton's universe, which is like brooding on steroids.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this later versions of these characters, like Penguin and Catwoman, were influenced by this Burton universe. I mean, the animated series is kind of the animated series, which is like, iconic when it comes to the Batman. When you talk about Batman, the 90s animated series were influenced by Burton's movies.
Yeah, I think that this was an incredibly successful movie, so it definitely shaped everything afterwards. Well, let's talk about Shreck, not the green kind that spawned the most successful ogre movies of all time. Christopher Walken plays Max Shreck, who is just a human businessman industrialist, the Santa Claus of Gotham, but who ends up being evil. What did y'all think about Christopher Walken as a bad guy? John without an H?
I think
do you like Christopher it's bad impression. Never mind.
I actually like the dueling fighting accents thing he has going on, like a businessman mixed with a wise street criminal or something. But no, I thought most of what I had to say about Shreck, you guys actually hit pretty early on, talking about the how relevant his character kind of is to today and everything like that. I thought it was pretty interesting. I looked up the character to see kind of who he was in the comics, because I wasn't even sure who he was, and it's like a complete departure from the character entirely. So it's like almost a Burton OC, original content or something. But yeah,
wow.
Yeah, pretty much like I said, you guys hit it on the head earlier. The dude's like a mini Trump.
Yeah, definitely. I think he was actually implemented in comics after this movie, if I'm not mistaken, because
the comic book version of him looks exactly like Christopher Walken.
Yeah, I think Max Shreck was an original character created for the movie, and again, because these movies were like a big mark in Batman history, like they pulled kind of like the way Harley Quinn was like, created on the animated series and then pulled into pop culture because she was so popular. Max Shreck. Yeah, I guess I'll say some stuff about Max Shreck. He was awesome. I mean, Christopher Walken is just awesome in anything he does. The fact that he's like, in this movie it still blows my mind, because he's like, he's got some of the funniest lines in my opinion. I can't remember right now off the top of my head. Maybe it's just because I laugh every time Chris Walken talks or something. I'm around the. I know it shouldn't be that way, but like I guess like I've seen enough like parodies and like and then the role from Pulp Fiction comes to mind whenever I think of like Chris Walken delivery. But he is like a very like really cool, interesting corporate villain basically. That's kind of at one point is the mastermind of this whole adventure. And yeah, seeing the parallels between him and Trump is funny, because he seems to not believe anything. Like he doesn't want to believe anything that's like that's negative surrounding his like situation or his circle. Yeah, and then him wanting to just take no for an answer and being very ruthless.
Yeah. He's super single-minded. He's a great foil to Bruce Wayne in terms of wealth.
He's the opposite.
He wants to control the mayor and in turn controls a penguin type sitch.
Right, yeah.
Until he can't control him anymore. And then it becomes, just like the animated film Shreck, a true tale of learning.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about. We already alluded to some of the themes of this movie. What are some other big parts that you really liked? There's some really fantastic action sequences. The movie was nominated for an Oscar, 2 of them, for some of the production stuff and the effects stuff.
I love the score. Danny Elfman's Batman score has always stuck with me, so much to the point where I know everyone hates the fucking, Joss Whedon Justice League cut that came out. But I actually I don't love that movie. Let me rephrase this shit. I love the fact that Tim Burton, Danny Elfman Batman score made its way into Justice League. Like, I dug the fact that, like, Ben Affleck's Batman was jumping around with the Batman theme, like the Batman theme, in my opinion. And so, Danny Elfman, became one of my favorite composers because I grew up with these movies. And, and then in discovering Oingo Boingo and stuff, that's a different story. But, like, Danny Elfman killed it. He did say on the, I looked up some behind the scenes, and it kind of gave me some perspective on how music is written for movies, or at least how it was, or how it still is, who knows. He said that, like, he would work on a piece 8 bars at a time musically for, like, a scene, like scoring a scene. And he would go 12 hours, and then he would kind of take a look at what he's done, and he would only literally recorded 40 seconds, or wrote 40 seconds worth of music in like 12 hours. And I thought that was crazy because it just shows how time consuming the scoring process is. And that's mind blowing. Cause, like, this movie, if you kind of listen to the score in the background, the music never stops. Like, even on low parts of the movie, it's never silent. It's almost like a constant, like, stuff is going on the entire time.
Yeah. I'm sucking my straw hard. Andrew, what are some other things that you like about this movie?
Me? I think the thing I love most about this movie, I think, is the production design and set design. I love on how they kind of, it's like the first movie, but on steroids. Make everything huge and make it feel like fucking foreign as fuck. And I was like, oh man, like a foreign city. And, it's really, really cool. And, it just goes to show on why Tim Burton keeps getting work even today, where he just has a way of bringing you into this world, whether the movies are good or bad. I don't know how Dumbo was. Did you watch Dumbo?
I watched Dumbo.
Did you like it?
It was sad. Yep.
So
it was sad.
And that's a Tim Burton movie, and so that sounds about right, But yeah, they obviously, is able to, it's like when you watch a Guillermo del Toro movie where you're like, oh man, like, if you can feel the vibe of the director in the movie. And so that's what I really like about this film. And that's what I think it suits Batman in a way. I was looking at, the sketches that Tim Burton was that drew up of, like, the characters, and he drew the Penguin, and it looks like like a Corpse Bride type of young pudgy character with fucked up hands and shit, but again, right up his alley. And so I think it's cool just to see that type of spin on in a Batman Elseworld story, so to speak. And I mean, he might be coming back in The Flash, so we don't, he's definitely a fan favorite. And this movie just kind of tries to pick everything up, or push the envelope a little bit more than the first one did, and make everything else make the bigger version of the first one, essentially make a more exaggerated version. So it's really, really cool.
I think this movie sits at this really special time in filmmaking when it comes to production design and effects, where there was a perfect ratio of practical and digital, and still being shot on film, where things still were fairly even. Like, they're in this movie, they used probably 100 real penguins, some fake penguins, but then all the bats were CGI, and some of the cities were miniature. Like, there's a nice meld of everything, instead of, well, before that, everything was like a puppet, or someone was actually throwing a penguin at a car, or nowadays where it is 100% just CGI and you for sure know that it's all computer and these phones these days, these oh my gosh, these iPhones, iPads, I don't even know anymore.
Well, and they said that they would super cool these sets. They're filming in California in the middle of the summer, and they would build these huge ass sets of obviously every set piece that you see in the movie. And in order to have the penguins on set, they needs to be below a certain temperature. And so they would chill, they would go to work in like big parkas and, coats and stuff. And everyone would be looking at them because hot as fuck in California. And then they would go into these sets and, chill to below freezing.
And it probably smelled like fish.
Yeah. Well, and even Danny DeVito said he straight up ate real fish. And like that, that wasn't fake. That wasn't effects or I thought it was bubble gum as a kid, but it turns out it's real fucking fish. And so
that's insane.
Yeah, that's the type of movie this is. It's kind of the beauty of practical effects. Is what made Jurassic Park, so iconic, and because it was real, and so that's why Jurassic World isn't as good.
No, Jurassic World is good. But let's talk a little bit about. So this is a Christmas movie, and this is part of our Christmas series. So every single one of these movies and sequels, we're giving the Spirit of Christmas award to a character that embodies the spirit of Christmas. Do y'all have any ideas who we should give the Spirit of Christmas award to in this film? I have one. Shreck?
Yeah, I was actually going to say Max Shreck, like in this
Why?
movie. He gave the most, and at the very end, he gave his life.
Okay.
Now, I don't know. I mean, but like he seems to be. I mean, I don't know. Like Christmas this year seems kind of seems I don't know why exactly. I feel like he did he did the most by like kind of giving the penguin to. I know. I'll take that as you will. Like he gave the penguin to Gotham City.
Yeah.
He was trying to give the city a power plant that will ultimately basically drain and suck the energy out of the city, but he's giving nonetheless. He gives to take basically, and then at the very end when he shares a very shocking kiss with Catwoman, he gives his life.
True, and he wants to give the town a power plant.
Well, besides the fact that they called him Santa Claus, I thought he reminded me of Christmas a lot in his master manipulation and his love of money. But
it's consumerism.
Yeah, see, I'm there with John. That's pretty awesome.
Wow, Shreck early lead in the Spirit of Christmas award. Andrew.
And so I'll go a traditional Christmas route, which will be heartwarming and nice. So I will say that it's Alfred, because Alfred's the real MVP in this movie. He's so nice about everything. He's even telling Batman, like, it's Christmas. You want to turn that TV off? So that way you don't have to investigate the penguin. Like, you gotta be Batman this year, dog. Just take a chill pill. I brought you food and stuff like that. He's even helping him out with the ladies, where he's like, hey, I'm going to make up an excuse for you on why you can't meet Selena Kyle right now, on the couch. And then he even makes up an excuse for her. I bet you he just didn't tell anybody anything. He's like, huh? But yeah, and so I think that Alfred is always the nicest, and I love this take on Alfred, and I was really sad when the actor passed.
I had a very literal nomination. I was going to nominate the Ice Princess, who was thrown off of the roof and lit the tree with her impaled dead body. Truly the spirit of Christmas and the Ice Princess. How should we do this? Because I think Max Shreck, I guess, wins because it's 2 votes to 1 each. Or should we let the listeners decide?
They should probably let the listeners decide, but I feel like Max Shreck is this movie's version of Santa Claus,
Okay, we'll let you, the listeners, decide whether it is Max Shreck, the villain kind of this movie, but the Santa Claus of Gotham, or if it's Alfred, who is truly, I would say, just kind.
Alfred seems like the most sane character in this movie, or the most insane because he puts up with with Bruce Wayne and Batman and stuff, But I do like.
Or is it Ice Princess?
The Ice Princess character, man, when you brought that up, I kind of forgot about it until you brought it up. Like, that's a very depressing end for a character like that. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, the Ice Princess character, if, to describing her character in the movie is like kind of like a model for Gotham
Kind
City.
of like, what is kind of like a model, John?
I don't know exactly what that what she is in the movie, or what I know what she is, but what she is to the city of Gotham. Boy. I guess no.
Wow, wow.
She's probably like a Miss America, but Miss Gotham type of thing. But she dies. She gets pushed off the roof by a bunch of bats.
She's basically used to frame Batman, where she's not even important. They're just like, just use her to fucking frame Batman.
Yeah, and she dies in a very horrible way.
Is this the first time, because this ends up being a trope in the Batman films, is this the first time that he's framed?
Probably not.
Publicly? Okay, all right. Well, I was going to say, because it happens in Dark Knight, he becomes the villain long enough, or whatever, the hero long enough to be the villain.
The hero, yeah.
It happens quite a few times. I was wondering if this is the first time, at least in a movie, where the Penguin does it to success.
It could be the first time, possibly. I don't remember the 1960s version of the movie. There could be a trope in that one as well, too. But I feel like it's a popular Batman trope, in general, to do that, because that's how you turn the people against said Batman, I guess.
Batman's a pretty political... John without the H, I don't know if you have any ideas of this, because I know you love Batman. Batman is he's like a political figure in a lot of things. Like the police have an idea of him. Everyone has an opinion on Batman, apparently.
It's like a mask thing. He exists or he doesn't. And if you think he doesn't exist, you're an idiot, because he's clearly over in the skies all day. Fun stuff. I don't get it. No, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
I really enjoy. Well, I think we already talked about Michael Keaton, so I won't give him too much. But yeah, he definitely is this interesting meld, knowing what Batman means to the city. Because we talked about fake news earlier. Batman does that thing where he changes the what the Penguin is saying to create fake neuse. John.
I just thought there was something interesting about the visual of Michael Keaton's lips coming out of that cowl. I was like, if all the Batman that we've seen today, people really focus on the square jaw. The jaw has to stick out of the cowl. There's no attempt there. All you saw was the puckering of Michael Keaton's lips. It's very interesting, I thought.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and add. I've never noticed that before until at the very end, because at the very end when he rips his mask off, right? And I think, Penguin comes back from the water, attempting to shoot Batman with an umbrella.
Literally rips his mask off. He
literally does.
The rubber.
So there's that shot where he turns around and the camera zooms in, because he gives that scowl, that Batman scowl, but he doesn't have the mask on, and he does have a lips. He was it's a weird thing. I was like, I don't think I've ever noticed that before, and it's pretty funny because he does have
some juicy smackers.
He does a little kissing face almost. It's pretty funny. I do want to add that this has probably got the most badass Batman gliding scene I've ever seen in any of the movies.
Okay.
That glider was sick.
I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
It literally flaps the fuck out.
It's a solid piece of equipment. It's erect. I will say that, speaking of his meaty sausage lips, he also references, because it's a Christmas movie, mistletoe a lot, especially with Catwoman. It's always, look, there's mistletoe, baby. And so maybe that's why he's always ready for a kiss, for a smooch. He's the most kissable Batman, I guess.
Right. Possibly, yeah. I do want to, I think I may have said this earlier, but I think the Catwoman and Batman dynamic is the best, because Batman kind of sees, especially in these Burton movies, the Batman is always looking for someone who, there's always an implication that he can't settle down because of what he does, but in this one he kind of finds Selina, who's just as broken, and he says it we're the same, split right down the center, they both have duality there, and I think that was an awesome take for a love story there between Batman and Catwoman. It's pretty awesome. I don't think I've seen that. I think there's a hint of that in Dark Knight Rises, which is its own story, obviously, but it's not done as well as it is in this one.
Yeah, and everything's so sad in her life, in Selina's life before she's Catwoman. She's answering her answering machine and someone like dumps her. She's feeding all these cats. Everyone's treating her poorly. But what I really love, because it is kind of the Tim Burton, it's not subtle in any way, but there's a giant neon sign in her room that says hello there. And when she becomes Catwoman, it now says hell here. And I'm thinking, whoa, somebody wrote this and somebody made this. And now we're looking at it. And it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
It happens in Dumbo too. Dumbo has a sign in his stable that says "Hello there," and then when
he turns into Catwoman,
Catwoman, I would say that Dumbo's ears probably rival Batman's glider in terms of flight resistance.
We're gonna have to put, and I don't know, we're gonna have to take that to a debate in the comments section or something.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap up our final thoughts on this movie. This Christmas film that is Batman Returns. It's actually a super Christmassy movie. Andrew, what are your final thoughts on Batman Returns? Ho, ho, ho.
I think that it's going to be a movie I watch around Christmas forever.
Wow. Por vida. John, with an H?
It's Batman Returns is awesome. I kind of been rewatching this. You kind of see that it's kind of, everyone really likes the Tim Burton, the Jack Nicholson Joker. But I feel like Batman Returns is the more fun of the original two Burton movies. It's definitely, if we're ranking it like that, then it's obviously the best of the original four. Counting the Schumacher ones, Forever and Robin. It's a great movie. It's very Christmassy. They kind of hammer in the Christmas theme every 4 scenes or so in this movie,
which is crazy because this movie was released in the summer, and the reason why they had it Christmas themed was because VHS sales were so insane that they wanted this to be like a $50 VHS that people would buy for Christmas. I'm sure it did well. Yeah, I'm sure it was.
I'm sure it was awesome for that Christmas season. It's pretty. It's a great flick. Like, I think it rivals. I think it's better than 2 of the Nolan movies. Shit, if we're doing that, it's also
Dunkirk,
better than,
what is it? Dunkirk and Tenet.
Yes, definitely, it's better than those 2. It's also better than I'm going to go ahead and say it's better than Batman versus Superman and possibly Justice League too. Definitely Justice League. Excuse me.
BVS, no matter who wins, we lose.
Yes, that tagline, that epic tagline of BVS. So Batman Returns is pretty great. It's very disappointing that you didn't see Burton come back and do a third movie, because apparently his third movie was going to be even crazier than Batman Returns. But for what we got, it's pretty awesome. They're like, they're staples of superhero cinema now. You can't talk about superhero movies or Batman movies, without mentioning these 2 films, and especially Batman Returns. I think it ages like a fine wine.
A fine wine. Speaking of fine wine, John, you're aging like a fine wine, and Daddy wants a sip.
He's lying.
What did you think about Batman Returns?
I thought Batman Returns was fine. Like I said earlier, I'm a big comic guy. So coming into this after all these years, I was like, well, I don't know if I'm still gonna like this. I was honestly surprised at how right he got a lot of the tones and a lot of the characters, and like John was saying earlier, especially Bruce and Selina's dynamic is perfect, spot on. And just watching Selina Kyle walk around in that outfit, I can do that for 2 hours every year. So I could do without the BVS slander. I still prefer Ben Affleck to Michael Keaton. Give me fucking 2 hours of Affleck. But
2.5 hours, like with that with that ultimate cut,
with that back tattoo, baby. I mean, I agree with everyone. This is a fantastic movie. I think Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman was so successful. They announced a spin-off that never happened, but it was something that was so big. This movie made so much that they were like, this is it. We found the superhero universe that we wanted to find. But yeah, this movie is incredibly fun, and Tim Burton has this uncanny ability to make something dark but not serious, and this movie is that. And it definitely has a lot of Batman stuff going on. We didn't even talk about the Batmobile and all his bat gadgets, and then also the umbrella gadgets. Like, it has everything that you probably liked about the Adam West Batman, and in just it's a good medium between Adam West and Christopher Nolan's Batman movies, which makes it really fun, especially around Christmas time. I'm not sure if the movie is hopeful at the end, but Bruce Wayne gets a cat.
He does, yeah.
So that's pretty good. What a good Christmas for him, huh?
I guess so.
But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. Well, hey, ho, ho, ho. That comes to the end of our Christmas show. And again, we will, before we go into plugs, we will remember to put out a poll for the Spirit of Christmas Award so that we, I guess, somehow announce
for
who the winner is.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. But hey, let's talk about plugs. It is Christmas time, the first Monday in December. John, you have a podcast of your own, and what a Christmas delight it is.
I hope it is.
Tell us about it, and then maybe predict what's going to be on it 2 months from now.
Well, it's Dirt Sheet Radio under Delphin Pod, just like this podcast. So hopefully if you're listening to this, you know about it already. But the Survivor Series would have just ended. We either hated it or we loved it, and we're going to act like we hated it because I need you guys to want to listen to me. So listen to Dirt Sheet Radio every Tuesday.
Is there a Christmas-themed wrestling event? They should do that. I feel like
they do one,
Christmas morning.
They do one every year, but it's really bad because nobody wants to be there. They all want to be with their families.
True.
Sense, yeah.
Hey, we make NBA players play through Christmas. It's kind of sad, but entertaining. And hopefully the COVID bubble hasn't popped. Yeah. John, what do you have to plug?
Oh, shit. Sorry. I have to follow that. That was pretty great. Listen to all your Delphin Pod podcasts. Listen to Dirt Sheet Radio. Listen to Revenge of the Sequel. Listen to Countdown to Infinity. Listen to The Countdown Strikes Back, which is our rebranding of the Star Wars show. That's, Mandalorian should be out and about right now.
Still going on, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. At the time of this recording, it hasn't started yet, so that's probably why I'm fumbling over my fucking words.
And the Lego Christmas special.
Yeah, the Lego Christmas special should be out at some point. And I'm sure it'll be up on this network. And go to the Patreon. Go to sign up there for some cool stuff. You'll hear some exclusive episodes like what fucking I'm blanking out. Movie trivia. There you go. Sorry. And some, you'll get to listen to all of these like early on. Like the way if you're out on the Patreon, you're obviously listening to this like very soon. That's why I'm at a loss to say anything Christmassy because it's still October. So listen to all those stuff. It's pretty awesome.
Andrew, it's Christmas season. I know it's your favorite time of year. You've got your Santa Claus hat on and your Mrs. Claus bikini.
Yeah, I do love Christmas. It's my favorite time of the year. Anything from and it's I'm very fortunate because we're talking about it now, and it's making it seem like Christmas is almost over, but we're still in October, and so I love this season from Halloween all the way to Christmas. It's the best. And so, what everybody else said, listen to Dirt Sheet Radio, listen to all the stuff on Dolphin Pod, Patreon, all that good stuff. Hopefully we have WandaVision happening. Is that still supposed to premiere before the end of the year? They haven't given us the date and stuff like that, but we'll have the Marvel stuff going on. We'll have the Star Wars stuff going on. We'll have wrestling covered with Dirt Sheet Radio. We have maybe ? Another pod that involves some sort of collaboration.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm not sure if
oh my gosh, is Santa doing a
stay.
Santa's doing a podcast with us?
Maybe.
Oh, I keep burping. Fuck. I got so excited about Santa. Well, yeah, listen to all your Dolphin Pod shows. Support the pod at patreon.com/dolphinpod, DELFINPOD. We'll have holiday surprises there as well. Thank you so much for listening to this show, and we'll see you next week for more Christmas sequels.
Yeah,
we shouldn't say Christmas, huh?
Holiday sequels.
Holiday sequels. Season sequels.
Thanks, John, for being on, man.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, what's that above us? Is that mistletoe? All right, I've stopped.